These two legal structures will add almost 74 lakh extra to our family's wealth.
ना बेटर स्टॉक्स की वजह से, ना हायर रिटर्न्स की वजह से और ना ही क्रिप्टो की वजह से. सेम सैलरी, सेम इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, सेम म्यूचुअल फंड्स.
बस ओनरशिप अलग है. We are both salaried in the highest tax bracket. And once Avyaan, our son, was born, we realized that even if we invested in his name, the tax will still come back to us.
So we started looking for legal ways to create separate taxpayers within the family. And that's where we discovered two legal structures already built into the Indian tax law, HUF and private family trust.
One solves the income problem, another solves the accumulation problem. HUF first, trust second.
Hi, I'm Arpit.
And I'm Rashi. Welcome to FinWise Out.
In the next 10 minutes, we'll show you exactly how these structures work, how we set them up, and the real math behind that 74 lakhs.
So, when we first started earning well, both in the 30% tax bracket, the obvious thing was to just invest. SIPs, FDs, the usual. But every time we looked at our post-tax returns, something felt off.
The math is brutal once you are in this tax bracket. 30% tax, 10% surcharge, 4% cess. Effective tax rate 34.3%. So every rupee of FD interest, every rupee of dividend gone at 34.3%.
And then we had Avyaan. And the moment you start investing for your child, you hit another wall. Section 64. So whatever you invest in his name gets clubbed back to the higher earning parent. So you have moved the money, but the tax hasn't moved anywhere.
That's when we started looking whether there was a way to legally create separate taxpayers. Turns out there are two, HUF for our own income and trust for Avyaan's corpus. The first thing we did was move our emergency fund, 30 lakhs in FDs, into the HUF. At 7%, that's 2.1 lakh in annual interest every year. So we were effectively paying 72,000 in taxes. Effective yield 4.6%, barely beating inflation.
Inside the HUF, same FD, same bank, same rate, same liquidity. The interest sits inside the 4 lakh basic tax exemption. Tax 0, full 7% retained.
72,000 saved every year. On 12% reinvestment for the next 20 years, that's 52 lakhs in additional corpus.
HUF also gets its own capital gain tax exemption under Section 54 and 54F, separate from our personal one. One thing to keep in mind, HUF doesn't get the Section 87A rebate, so the math differs from an individual in new regime. If you want the full details on HUF, the setup, the funding, the compliance, we have covered all of that in our past videos. Links are in the description.
But that's where we hit a wall. Once Avyaan arrived, we wanted to start building a corpus specifically for him. And that's when we realized HUF could not do it alone. Investing through the HUF for him had its own problems. Any co-partner could demand a partition as the corpus grows. We would lose control over who gets what and when.
We needed something completely separate, a structure where Avyaan was the beneficiary, but we were in full control of how and when the things reached him. And honestly, finding that structure is the part that changed how we think about wealth building entirely. First, we chose a grandparent settlor structure because it keeps Section 64 position much cleaner. Avyaan's grandfather is the settlor. We are the trustees. Avyaan is the beneficiary.
Second, in the trust deed, we clearly called out that the funds are for accumulation for the beneficiary, not for distribution. This is what gives the trust its own separate taxpayer identity under the Income Tax Act. The income stays inside, compounds, and is not distributed to Avyaan currently. Without that, the trust would have lost its separate tax status.
Third, since Avyaan has no other income as of now, he gets his own 4 lakh basic exemption and a 1.25 lakh LTCG exemption. Together, 5.25 lakh of LTCG completely tax-free every year.
When we first realized that we can book 5.25 lakhs in LTCG every single year, we thought that it is not just a tax saving tool, it is an active portfolio management strategy.
And most people don't see this part.
Avyaan is 1.5 years old today. 15 lakhs lump sum, 25,000 per month in SIP for next 13 years. Then we switch to debt in the final 3 years before he turns 18. Total invested 54 lakhs.
At 12% annual returns, that 54 lakh becomes 1.6 crore at the end of year 13. And that is the corpus we switch into debt. Here's what trust changes across both the phases.
Every year inside the trust, we book 5.25 lakhs of capital gains, 4 lakh exemption for the trust and 1.25 lakh additional LTCG limit. Tax 0.
We couldn't do this in our personal names. Our 1.25 lakh LTCG exemption limit is already used up by our own investments. And the 4 lakh basic exemption, that's fully covered by our salary. So any gain we book personally costs 14.3% immediately. There's no free harvest.
And that creates a very specific problem. For example, if we want to switch a mutual fund which is underperforming, in our personal name, that switch would have cost us 14.3% in taxes. So we hesitate. We hold on longer than we should. Inside the trust, we just switch. No tax, no friction.
The harvest also resets the cost of acquisition to today's price every year. We are chipping away at the future tax bill year after year.
Over 13 years, that's 68 lakhs of gains crystallized tax-free. Our effective cost inside the trust steps up from 54 lakhs to 1.22 crores. In personal name, that's still 54 lakhs, not a single rupee harvested.
At year 13, Avyaan is 14.5. We switch the entire corpus from equity to debt. Same 1.6 crore in both the cases, but the capital gain bill is completely different.
In personal name, the total capital gains is 1.06 crore. That translates into 15.1 lakhs in capital gain taxes. Inside the trust, the capital gains is just 37.4 lakhs, which translates into a tax of 4.9 lakhs at the trust slab tax rate.
10 lakhs saved on the switch alone. Post-switch corpus, trust has 1.55 crore going into debt, whereas in case of personal, 1.45 crore.
Both corpuses are now earning 7% in debt annually, and every year the interest received is taxed. Personal corpus earns 10.1 lakhs in interest income, pays 3.5 lakhs in taxes at 34.3% tax rate. Trust earns 10.8 lakhs, but there is a minimal tax because 4 lakhs of basic exemption, and after that the tax slabs are very lower.
This gap compounds over 3 years. Each year, since the trust corpus is larger, it earns more and still pays a fraction of what the personal names would pay on the same income.
Add it all up. When Avyaan turns 18, personal corpus 1.65 cr, trust corpus 1.88 cr.
Same 54 lakh invested, same 13 years of equity, same 3 years of debt.
22 lakh more purely from where the money sat.
And that's just the trust. Add the HUF's compounding of emergency fund, which is 52 lakh, and the family wealth advantage becomes 74 lakh. Same family, same salary, same investments. Rupees 74 lakhs more because two legal structures already exist in the Indian tax law and most people just don't use them.
So, the complete picture. HUF handles our income today, 72,000 saved every year on the emergency fund alone, 52 lakhs of compounding over the next 20 years. Trust handles Avyaan's future, 22 lakhs more in his hands when he turns 18.
The HUF makes us efficient today. The trust makes sure what we build reaches Avyaan on our terms. If you want the full breakdown on how HUF works, how private family trust is set up, and exactly how to create both, we have covered all of this in detail on our channel. Links are in the description. Like, share and subscribe. See you in the next one.